Canada, G7 country, has decided to leave First Nations behind with most basic need, clean drinking water. We need to survive. We have a boiling advisory from last 6 years, and end to this is nowhere in sight. We are here to ask for equality the way people in Winnipeg and other cities have drinking water. And we want the same. We are here instead of this equality, Canada has its lawyers are fighting to deny us this right. They are dragging us into court, blaming us for the situation. I, Chief, who has nothing to do with the reason for boiling advisory, was cross-examination for 3 days on the First Nation finances to cover up Canada's failure. This is same as what happened to CHRT Tribunal of CFS. We at Shamattawa are basically held hostage for basic human right of clean drinking water in a G7 country. This crisis is because of Canada's mismanagement and chronic underfunding. For years, we've been asking for a new water treatment plan, and it's still not finished. Canada is putting the rights of people on back burner, and other people are getting sick and youth are dying. There's hopelessness and youth are pushed to suicides. Over the past few days, a young man was murdered and a 15-year-old took his life. Our youth and people deserve to live a good life. And Canada doesn't even see us as worthy of living, having safe drinking water. We ain't treated like human beings. We urge Canada to stop fighting against First Nations over basic human right like safe drinking water and negotiate settlement. We live in a country, G7 country, not a poor country in the other part of the world. That's what I say for now. Thanks.
Thank you, Chief Hill. Good afternoon. My name is Dennis Whitebird, and I'm here to speak on behalf of Grand Chief Kathy Merrick from the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs. The Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs unequivocally support Chief Hill and the Shamattawa First Nation in their fight for the right to safe drinking water on reserve. The AMC also stands in solidarity with the 59 First Nations and tens of thousands of First Nation people represented in this class action. It is deeply concerning and unreasonable that thousands of First Nation people continue to live without access to safe drinking water. What is perhaps more concerning is that instead of addressing the fundamental human right, Canada is engaging in legal battles with First Nations over an issue that is essentially for survival. Canada has repeatedly claimed a commitment to resolving the water crisis affecting First Nations, asserting that ensuring safe drinking water on reserves is a federal responsibility. Yet when challenged, Canada has chosen to contest this right in court rather than act on its promise. The federal government's position that First Nations do not have a right to safe drinking water on their reserves contradicts its efforts to pass Bill C-61, which aims to enshrine the right into law. This contradictory stance is deeply troubling as Canada continues to fight with First Nations in court on every issue of clean drinking water. And in this era of reconciliation, First Nations are still forced to fight for basic rights that other demographics in Canada enjoy so freely. If Shamattawa First Nation 6-year drinking water advisory were in Winnipeg or Ottawa, Canada would act immediately to ensure residents had clean drinking water. So why is this same urgency and respect not extended to First Nation people? It is unacceptable that in 2024, Canada's legal representatives continue to argue in court against the right of First Nations to have safe drinking water on their reserves. This position is a significant setback for reconciliation and a disservice to First Nations everywhere, especially for our youth, whose inherent birthright is to grow up in their nations with access to safe drinking water. So today, I urge Canada to listen and take meaningful action. For Canada to genuinely move forward and align with the principles of justice and equity, all government frameworks and systems must first confront and acknowledge the nation's direct violation of First Nations' inherent treaty and fundamental human right. Moving forward in partnership is the only way to build a healthier, safer, and more equitable country. This starts with upholding the basic rights of First Nations, including the right to safe drinking water. Miigwech, thank you.
Well, they're blaming us for the delaying of the project, which is not our fault. It's the nature of the ice breakup that the water intake has been damaging every year. So I don't control the nature. So
yeah, so that means that the dewater treatment's not finished?
No.
Like, where is it at then?
well, it's in the stage of right now. I would say about 95% done. But that's the thing that keeps costing is the intake. They started this project 3 years ago, and it's been, even the previous water treatment plan has been giving us trouble because of the ice break of the nature. So they need to find another solution to come up with, so we don't face this problem.
Who designed it? Like, who is it that?
The designer, I believe, was Dylan, company called Dylan.
And if they were hired by the First Nation, or they were
Hired by ISK,
Okay.
because they follow the mandate, I guess.
And you touched on, like, that there's been murder and suicide and, you know, awful things happening in the community. Like, how does it make you feel knowing that, you know, you haven't had drinking water years and still hasn't been resolved.
Well, it's pretty hard right now, like for me to be sitting here, to come in a press conference, and especially what I'm going through right now, the suicide, the murder, and the elderly passing. It's difficult. A lot of times I get emotional, and it's hard to deal with. It's not easy. Like I said in the past, I'm pissed off. I'm tired because of all the stuff that I'm trying to accomplish for the community, and I'm getting dragged down from government not meeting our needs.
What message does that give you, that you still don't have drinking water security?
The message that I'm getting right now is I don't know if I'm going to be getting clean water. Like I told him, we're not going to get any further or get clean drinking water because the same issue we're going to be facing. So we have to deal with it right away. Otherwise, we'll be still in, who knows how long we'll be in water boil advisory.
And what impact does that boil water advisory have on the community?
It impacts very much everybody. It's like mentally, and like we're getting discouraged at, you know, especially, and not only that, but there's lots to do with the water, like people getting rashes and sickness and the health-wise.
I had a question. It's like, in the report it says that as the Auditor General has confirmed in successive reports that the federal government has deliberately underfunded the construction, operation, and maintenance of water infrastructure. I was wondering if you walk us through the specifics of that. Exactly how did the federal government underfunded the structures and stuff?
Sure.
Thank you. So through successive reports, the Auditor General and other third parties have continuously found that the federal government year after year is chronically underfunding water infrastructure on reserve, but also the operation and maintenance costs of that water infrastructure on reserve. And so the infrastructure does not last as long, and it requires recurrent repairs on a more frequent basis. And you've heard from Chief Hill the impacts that has on the community. They're in a situation where they're at the very end of the road and seeing the completion of their water treatment plant, and still they can't come to an agreement with Canada to get over that final step and get it done to bring clean water home to Shamattawa First Nation. And as they wait for that infrastructure to be completed and they wait for that adequate funding of the actual costs that Shamattawa needs for its water infrastructure and to operate and maintain that water infrastructure, the members are bearing the consequences. And he's spoken today about having to watch his community members die. Some of these are children who are 13, 14, 15 years old taking their own lives, who aren't seeing a future in the community because they don't have basic human rights enjoyed elsewhere in Canada. And so they're bearing the costs as the government's dragging its feet to do what needs to be done to bring clean water home.
Does the Auditor General have recourse in this?
So the most recent Auditor General report has listed a series of findings which continue to find the underfunding of water infrastructure operation and maintenance on reserve. Canada has accepted those findings, but the money hasn't followed in the amount that's needed to actually fix these chronic issues on reserve.
Could you let us know your name and title, please?
Yes, Alana Robert, lawyer for Shamattawa First Nation.
Canada, preaching reconciliation and now bringing you to court in the first place, what does that do to you as a chief of a First Nation? That the government who says they're trying to make amends is now your opposition in court.
Well, right now, well, what we're facing right now is very disturbing to the community members of Shamattawa because they can't have a clean drinking water. And it's costing a lot of money for the First Nations to buy water. And like we want to have a clean water, drinking water. Like we want to make sure that everybody has a healthy living life. Like you guys that live in the city, you guys drink healthier drinking water, but us in the communities, we don't. And that's what I want the government to understand where we're at and where we're coming from. We're not, you know, it's difficult to have to boil your water every time you want to drink or every time you want to cook something. You know, it bogs you down to mentally, you know, it just hurts everybody.
I guess ultimately, with this press conference today, you're voicing these concerns, hoping that the government will take action based on this. What would be the overall outcome that you would hope comes from this press conference today? What kind of action do you believe needs to be taken?
Well, what I need is a water treatment plant that can run without having to face any failure, and to have a clean drinking water like everybody else.
What does it say about Ottawa's commitment to reconciliation?
We haven't seen anything, commitment from government. Well, otherwise we wouldn't be here today if there was a commitment.
And what about the province? Do you seek some specific kinds of support from the provincial government?
The province, I haven't really sat down with province, mainly been with the federal.
Are we able to talk numbers at all, such as how much is underfunding and how much are missing and how many people are truly impacted by this? Just to kind of give more.
Well, it's more what the funding we get, and you got to look at all the costs of the whole water treatment plant itself, right? The employees, the material, the parts. It is high cost of living up there to ship it stuff. And plus if your pumps go, like your pumps probably costs, one pump probably costs 50,000, 45,000. And if you're lucky, if they have a pump in Canada, and otherwise they have to order it overseas. Yeah. So those are the kind of things that we're facing, the cost-wise.
And is the AFC involved in this negotiation?
Well, we represent 63 First Nations here in Manitoba. And we created the Assembly to advocate on behalf of each of those First Nations. And in this particular case with what is happening in Shamattawa, it can be in any community. We have water delivery trucks that are driving around on reserve, delivering water to every home. We don't have running water pipes into our houses. And that water in those delivery trucks is not necessarily always clean. There has to be a constant monitoring purpose. There has to be training for the people that are going to be managing the water treatment plant. There is so much that is so far behind in terms of every single community. But Shamattawa is going a direct route, they're going to court, and we will stand beside them.
How important is this court case, I guess, to set a precedent to make sure that, these First Nations, we don't see this happen to other First Nations? How important is this court case specifically?
Well, it is very important because it's a class action. There's 59 First Nations that are waiting, along with Chief Hill and Shamattawa. And if you have 59 communities with literally thousands of people waiting to get after Canada to be accountable for the service that they have to deliver, they say that the federal government is responsible for Indians and Indian land. everything in there. And as far as that matters, Canada is not doing their job if they have to be in court with this situation.